Hello, everybody. Welcome to the webinar Addressing Barriers to Agile Adoption, Change Resistance, and Skills Gap. The webinar today is going to be hosted by Johann Botha and me, Ademar. I'm from EXIN as well, and we hope you enjoy. So I'd like to say welcome to you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you are located. So before we go for a deep dive into the questions and then also these discussions that we're going to have with Johann, I would like to also, of course, to introduce Johann for you. Johann Botha, I'm a tremendous expert in the Agile and Digital Transformation, and recently he was nominated by EXIN as the EXIN Chief Examiner for the Agile and Digital Transformation subjects. So I would like to also ask you, Johann, to introduce yourself, because no one is better than you to put yourself up to the stage. The floor is yours, my dear.
Thank you, Ademar. Yes, so I'm really privileged that EXIN has chosen me as the Chief Examiner for this portfolio, and it is a passion of mine. So changing organizations for the better is exactly what this portfolio is about. Digital transformation, making sure that your organization will be able to survive in the future and doing it in a sustainable way, which is all about Agile. And that's what I've been doing for the last few years. I think I'm going for close to 40 years in the IT industry, of which about 25 of that was at a senior level in an organization. But today is all about Agile.
Great, Johann. Thank you very much for this. And also, you forgot an important highlight. You are also the author of the EXIN Handbook for Scrum Masters and Product Owner Directors, that we are really proud that you made this project together with us in the past year, which is available for download.
That one. And you've forgotten another one, this one. Sorry, other way around.
Verison as well. Verison as well, yeah, many projects we have done together that it's nearly impossible to name all of them. But the thing that I can say is that today's session is going to be really awesome. I'm already with my notepad over here with my pen to note everything that you are saying and to pick up the main takeaways from the session. So I hope you, our audience, is also prepared to get the main takeaways from this session, because Johann Botha is the guy for the subject. So with no further ado, we're gonna start, and then I would like to encourage also the audience to drop questions by using the GoToWebinar menu located on the right side of your screen. Then you can see one tab called Questions. Please drop your question over there, because in the end of the session, then I would be able to ask a few of your questions to Johann, and then he can reply directly to you. Okay, so along the session, please don't be shy, drop your question over there, and then I'll make the best to have then answered by Johann. Okay, Johann, so well, my dear, no further ado, I would like to start the questions with you, and then we're gonna focus today in terms of the gap regarding to the Agile and the workforce that is out there in the market. So regarding to this skills gap, we are seeing so many people doing training about Agile, Scrum, and still there is a gap in the market. What does it mean regarding closing this gap? How do you see the situation?
Yeah, I think the most important thing that we need to think about is that true business agility comes from a mindset change. So it's a different strategic response to the market. And just teaching people techniques doesn't mean that the organization is able to do things fundamentally different. So there needs to be a more fundamental shift within the organization, the way that the organization thinks about how they do business. So training is important, but it really starts as an organizational change, thinking differently about the world, and as a result, doing things differently. And that is at a strategic level, a tactical, and an operational level. So many people think that, you know, especially when we talk about Scrum, they think about the last practical mile of getting things done, but it's more than that. Yeah, and yeah, we need to think about this whole conundrum holistically.
Okay, but then if you say that the true mindset comes from the organization and the organization needs to be agile, do you feel that the trainings they add value to the professionals that are going out there and being trained to promote this change in the organization? How do you see the correlation of this?
Yeah, so I think that the question that we should ask is, you know, where do you sort of start? And we do a lot of, you know, training like Scrum Master and Product Owner and so forth. But there's actually one of the products in the EXIN portfolio that I think is very neglected. Because I think the biggest gap, you know, the biggest problem that we're sitting with, I don't want to call it a gap, let's call it a gap rather, is actually at the top of the organization. So Agile is not a tool or a method, and I think that's what makes it so different from other project management methodologies. And many people trying to do or to facilitate this change bottom up in the organization quite often hit a brick wall. And that's why I believe that our Agile Business Professional program is such a valuable tool, and it's very neglected in the market. Yeah, and that's really a place where the leadership of the organization can enable themselves to be a better facilitator of change within the organization. And they don't have to take tons of time. It's not a long program, but the benefits of the leadership of the organization becoming agile and thinking agile is phenomenal. Yeah, so just do it.
I see. I understand. Because this is the type of feedback that continuously, actually, I listen from the market, especially from the practitioners and professionals, that the change needs to start at the top of the organization, and then it's about like the practitioners and professionals, they are trying to change the mindset, but the top management, they don't change the mindset over there, and then creates like a massive problem, because top management sees the situation in a way, and then practitioners, professionals, line managers, they see in a different way. And then I like that you brought up the subject about the agile business professional, because this is actually, you are very much accurate. That is a product that we designed especially for this level of the organization, but then the traction is lower when compared to the others. Of course, makes sense with your whole explanation. But then I feel that sometimes it's like a chicken egg situation, right? Because practitioners say, yeah, top management needs to change. Top management say, no, the line managers needs to change. Do you have any tip that you can share about like how can you convince like the top management to say, hey guys, it's time to become agile? I'm sorry, I'm deviating a bit from the original question, but I feel that it's valuable to
that's fine. That's perfect. Yeah, I think people who are sitting feeling stuck at the middle shouldn't feel despondent, because we can make a difference. If you carefully craft an initiative where you can demonstrate the benefits of Agile to the organization in such a way that nobody can argue with it, mindset starts to change within the organization. Nothing sells like success. I call it the Goldilocks principle. You know, so go and choose an initiative that's important enough for people to care about. You know, they really want these outcomes, but it's not so difficult that you're likely to go and fail. And use this to basically demonstrate the benefits of an agile approach to things. I think one of the things that the senior people in the organization is very I won't say scared, but they're skeptical about the whole agile thing. Is that they can't see exactly what's going to be delivered up front. But here's the reality.
Uncomfortable situation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But here's the reality. How many projects have you been involved with that what we said we're going to do at the beginning of the project actually is what we did at the end of the project? Yeah. So in this book, there's I'll see now, there's a really good little aid that people can use as a conversation to actually help people to understand the difference and why it's more beneficial to do this. I'm just quickly seeing if I can quickly find it. Okay. I'll ask the next question. I'll browse, and as soon as I find it, I'll tell you on which page.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, the main thing is that okay, I found it. Okay, I found it. Making the case for Agile 1.2, page 17, 18, and 19. I encourage you to go and read through that, because I use that technique to actually, when I speak to senior people in the organization, to actually show them that this is actually not such a scary thing to do. It's actually more realistic to work in an agile way than try and think that we've got all of the knowledge up front. We all know that's not true. We keep on discovering new things as we go along, and at the end of the day, what we want today and what we want tomorrow is not the same, because the world changes around us. So Agile is not such a scary approach.
I see. Understandable. I'm happy that you shared even like at the chapter in the page where you wrote down, because actually for me it was quite valuable what you said, that basically and validated that you practice what you preach. So what you wrote over there in the handbook, actually you are doing.
Yeah.
And it's working.
No, absolutely. That's where it comes from. I mean, I for a long time I struggled to have this conversation. And then I realized, but the best way to have the conversation is to ask people questions about their real experience about projects, and then to relate what we're busy doing to that. And at the end of the day, the evidence is there that what we're doing when we're working in an agile way is much more closely aligned to reality than wishful thinking, which a pre-planning waterfall approach is.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So let's wrap up this question. Let's move to the next question, because otherwise we will say like over here in the first question like forever. Well, it's a relevant question, so I would spend like loads of time over here. So the second question is, where do you think the skills gap is the greatest?
Well, I think we've already alluded to that. The skills gap must be the greatest where the biggest challenge exists, and that's really at the top of the organization. So people who are schooled in the agile method, one of their roles is to become sort of an evangelist and a tutor for other people within the organization, explaining why working differently is a more meaningful way of doing things. And then once you've got the ear of people, as I said before, there's some wonderful products that's sitting within the EXIN portfolio, namely the Agile Business Professional, and we're going slightly out of the Agile field now, but things like Lean IT would be very helpful, and then EXIN Professional to help people better understand the reality of a changed business environment. And I think post-pandemic, we've realized that the world will never be the same again. And we have to respond. The leadership of the organization need to respond, and the rest of the organization needs to, in kind, also respond. But it's really a strategic approach first. This massive, and it is a massive mindset change within the organization. And it means that a lot of the practices in the organization that we comfortable with, as a result, will change over time. They don't need to change immediately. Some of them do, some don't. But yeah, change is scary and it's uncomfortable.
It is. It is. To leave the comfort zone, like it's quite challenging, I would say. But then also to get the buy-in from people is also challenging for those that are trying to change. So I feel that, like, resuming what you said, the skills gap is happening at the most at the top of the organizations. So then basically, let's resume that is the business side of the organization, from the senior managers upward.
Yeah.
Then you said, well, one of the things that can help is about like understanding the benefits for Agile. I'm linking with your first answer from the first question, and then maybe doing a pilot, but then also investing in the education from these people, because there are training and certification or programs that are suitable for the business person to understand what Agile is and how to handle, how to get the benefits from this. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Another thing that's worth mentioning also is that one of the reasons why many Agile initiatives fail is because the business doesn't take ownership of what's happening in this chain of events. And the way that you take ownership of that is your product owners are fairly senior people in the business who can make decisions on behalf of the business. And there's far too many organizations who sees the role of product ownership as a facilitation role and not a decision-making role. It is actually a decision-making role. The product owner owns the product backlog. The product backlog tells us what will be delivered. And if that's not in line with what the real product owner, the person with a budget, wants, there's going to be misalignment, and the delivery is not going to be what the business wanted. So business ownership is a key element in being successful when trying an Agile approach.
Okay, I like that you tapped into the product owner subject, because I feel that this is like one of the areas that often I see a major gap, especially when it comes down to understanding the role and then why Agile failed. Because I feel that many times product owners, they are being put in a lower level of the organization, and then the ability of taking decisions, it's of course limited, and then the product suffers. And also then it's a waterfall that happens over there, then like a cascade, because then the development team will suffer, then the feasibility and budget and deliverables, they're going to suffer. Is it correct, this assumption and this market knowledge?
Absolutely. There's a principle, there's a few principles that I taught my kids, and my kids are adults now, they're 26 and 30. But one of the principles I taught them is never take accountable for something that you don't have control over. And I think that's the position where many product owners are today. They're held accountable for the success of a product, but they don't have the right to make decisions. And if that's the situation, you've got the wrong level of person as your product owner. Now, what also happens is people then say, okay, but the people who's got the authority to make those decisions are too busy, so we'll create proxy product owners. And that's also a bad decision, because then you can never make a real decision that is binding. The product owner will make a decision or say, this is something that's a priority and we need to look at it, in the next few iterations, and then somebody else overturns that. And that's a big problem, because what makes Agile successful is the fact that as you devolve work through the organization, the person who's doing the work takes accountability of that. But if you take their accountability away, then they're going to lose heart, and they're going to say, why bother? We'll just do whatever you tell us to do. That's not what Agile is about. It's about people caring about their work and doing the right thing and investing emotionally, psychologically, mentally in the work that they do. They become engaged. They love what they do. They become innovative. So,
Great. Well, thanks very much for all your explanations, Johann. Let's go to the next question, because that is, of course, like completely related to this, but then now we got more insights to answer this question. How should organizations close the skills gap at this point of time based on everything that we discussed so far?
So I think that's a very difficult question to answer, because it's not a simple recipe that you can apply. I think understanding is a big part of it, and everybody that's part of the pool of people in the organization that believes in an agile approach, they need to become sort of an evangelist, a coach, somebody that constantly talk about the benefits and why it's a better way of doing things in the organization, because it starts with buy-in. And the moment you've got buy-in, then we've got a wonderful bag of tools in our portfolio, and there's other bags of tools also that can be used. So the more senior people should do the agile, the business professional program, and they will learn a lot from that. As we already see, the people who needs to make decisions about the products and services in the organization should understand what the role is of a product owner. Then we've got the servant leaders who facilitate outcomes for the teams and cross-functional teams that can do Scrum Master. So those tools are available. But I would also say that another thing that would be very helpful is if you get a really experienced agile coach involved. And the emphasis is on very experienced, somebody who's done it successfully before. And what's interesting is within our portfolio, we even cater for people like that. But it's not a course. You can't go and write an exam to become a coach. You become a coach because you demonstrate that you've got the ability to actually help people overcome some of these problems that organizations will face. So I think that sort of covers most of it.
Okay, so resuming, you said first we need to understand where the skills gap are, then to create evangelizers, coaches to provide and to share the benefits, to create the buy-in from the organization as a whole, and then it would be quite handy to have an experienced agile coach.
Yes, and another thing maybe that I just want to remind you of, we talked about it earlier, is that do a pilot, do a meaningful pilot where you can demonstrate to the rest of the organization that Agile is not a boogeyman. It's not as scary as they think. It's actually a very humane way of working. I mean, if I had the choice between working in a hierarchical organization and working in an agile fashion, I'll choose agile anytime. It's more humane, it's more meaningful, and I think it makes better use of human capital also.
I think like helps because also as a small team and the need to create like a shippable products in the interactions, so creates more engagement and excitement in the teams, right? This is at least like how I feel.
Yeah, no,
But every team
absolutely. I mean,
has something to celebrate.
doing a pilot, or that's where I talked about that Goldilocks principle. Choose something that's important enough that people will care about the outcome, but not so difficult that you're going to fail, to demonstrate the benefits of Agile. And just bear in mind, there will be resistance. I mean, there's no question about it. We actually, in the handbook that I wrote, there's a whole chapter about, how do we deal with objections? What do we do, when people don't buy in? What do we do to people who's actively working against the program? So, just doing the Scrum Master and the Product Owner course will give you a lot of insight already in that. And then there's a huge focus in the business professional also, on how do we take the rest of the organization along. And that's important. This is not forcing. You can't force Agile down somebody's throat. It never works that way.
I see. But I feel that there is one thing here related to this that we didn't talk much yet. That is about, because this is about how to close the skills gap. And then I feel that that for an organization to close a skill gap towards their workforce, and also to prepare them to embrace Agile, do you feel that mapping the competencies and skills that are already there, this is an important step towards the goal? Because, for example, I'm pretty much sure that many of our attendees, they are practitioners, for example, in infrastructure, or they are developers, or they are from the business side even. Me as a technical guy, which role am I going to play? This can create, because when embracing Agile and the Scrum, there are certain roles, but if they're roles, they are not well explained, designed. So how can we put like these persons in these roles if they don't know which roles they are and which skills and competence are required by them? How do you see this? Do you face any situation like this at organizations that were a bit lost about which roles are, and then how to put people over there? How do you see this?
Okay, so first thing I just need to note is, remember that in Scrum we don't talk about the roles now, we talk about accountabilities. And it's interesting why we made that shift is because people, immediately if we talk about roles, there's a very mechanistic way of thinking about roles in organizations. And quite often when we think about roles, we think about the process of what people will do. And really, there's not a huge process in Agile. It's, as we said right from the beginning, it's a mindset. So yes, it may help, it may be helpful, but I don't think that you should be too hung up on skills, maybe rather on competencies. And you, for instance, if you have got somebody who really they do well in very structured environments, and they're really good at making decisions. It sounds like a great person to put in the role of a Scrum Master. It's not, because a Scrum Master doesn't really make decisions. It's the team that makes the decisions. They're a facilitator of outcomes. So I think one needs to be very careful in choosing methods that was sort of part of our old toolkit, and try and apply it to the new toolkit. I think it is important that people understand what the accountabilities are, and what it entails. To some extent, it also means that we need to be sort of honest with ourselves also, to say, yeah, that's not quite the role that I see myself in. Yeah. Because it is a big shift. I've seen organizations that wants to go the agile way, and then they convert all of the project managers into Scrum Masters, and often it doesn't work, because there needs to be a fit, a personality fit. So I think it goes deeper than just skills and competencies. That's an interesting question. I don't have a final answer. Let me call a friend.
I see, because it can vary from organization to organization, which is totally fine. But I see many links over here with what we've discussed before, again and again. That is about top management understanding what they would like to, understanding what Agile is, what Agile isn't.
Yeah.
So having an Agile coach to help them to define the best way in the accountabilities of the teams, and then of course like education programs should take place.
Yeah, and I think people also need to understand that the way that we operate is different. I mean, if you asked me 10, 15 years ago, am I okay with a team of people taking accountability for something, I would tell you absolutely not. Yeah, and that's after I've been using something like XP since the late 90s. So there's some fundamental and difficult changes in the way that we think about work, if you truly want to embrace Agile and get the awesome results that many organizations do. I mean, the other day I spoke to one of my customers, and they said to me, do you know what, on average, in the last few months since we started down this journey, there's a 300% improvement in our project outcomes, and they still at the beginning of their journey. 300% is not little. And what's even more scary is that in some of our projects, that is little. We've actually seen one team within a customer, their level of ROI in terms of the innovation projects, delivered 2,883% return on investment in 1 year. The stuff works, but it's difficult. And it's not difficult because it's conceptually difficult. I think it's difficult because we make it difficult. Because it is so different to what we're used to doing.
Yeah, we like to make things more complex than they should, right?
Absolutely. And that's why I love Scrum, because Scrum is infinitely simple. I mean, it's really easy to learn. I don't want to use the word method, but I'm going to use the word method because it's convenient at the moment. But it's really difficult to become agile. It's easy to learn the method, but the mindset is not that easy. And that's why somebody who's walked the walk before and has had positive outcomes becomes such a valuable asset. And I would encourage more people with this level of experience to actually apply to become part of the Agile coaching program, because the way that's done is that an independent team validates your ability to coach an organization and help them on this journey. So it would put another arrow in your quiver when you go and speak to customers and say, yeah, an independent party has vouched that I've got the ability or the capability to help you on the road. Yeah, I think that's a valuable arrow to put in your quiver.
Great. So let's wrap up this one and let's move forward to the next one, Johann. The next question is, if part of the problem is mindset, how do you recommend to change that? I feel that we tapped into this already, so we can
sort of talked about that already, I think.
Yeah, so basically over here, I think we said about it's engaging with the top management, making them percent available of the projects, doing a pilot, having an agile coach over there to help with to embrace the mindset, defining the accountabilities, and then of course investing in education. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we've answered that question quite substantially.
Okay, that's great. Just validating with you because you are the expert, not me. I'm just like a humble so over here.
No, that's not true.
That's very true.
Don't let anybody believe, or nobody should believe what Adamar is busy telling you.
So let's go to the next question. So what should the mindset change to? What needs to be done? What needs to be this mindset, so-called agile?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think the big thing or the big change that I see in organization is a more inclusive way of thinking about work, and moving away from a command and control type of structure within the organization. So here's a thing that I just want to leave with people to think about. Yeah, when Frederick Taylor talked about scientific management, and it wasn't really management, the stuff that he talked about was more about supervision. It was at the beginning of a age of heavy industrialization and standardization in a manufacturing environment. And we still try and apply those same principles. The reality is that today, virtually every employee in the organization is a knowledge worker. And much of what we do is actually service orientated. So even if we're a product company, there's lots of service that's built around that. And we can't work with highly skilled people, tell them what to do, and then think they need to remain motivated. That just doesn't make sense. And that's why Agile is such an awesome tool, because it gives everybody the ability to contribute the thing that they can do best. So we can make good use of people's skills and capabilities. But because people work in a team, you can create a complement where nobody needs to fail. So more collaborative. I think that's a change that needs to happen. Less siloed. That's a thing that needs to happen. It's difficult at first, but the leadership of the organization need to trust their people to do the right thing. And it's an interesting quote from Stephen Covey. He said, "The only way to trust somebody is to trust them." So many times I've had conversations with leadership in organizations, and they say, "You don't understand. I mean, my people must first prove themselves to be trustworthy." And my response to them is, "But can they trust you?" Because in Agile, we want people to take up accountability for the work that they do. But if we constantly question what they do, and overturn the decisions that they make, it just shows that there isn't that trust. Yeah, and sometimes it's really necessary that the top structure of the organization need to just trust people. We've also learned with nearly 50 years now of applying Lean principles that the further the decision being made is from the real work being done, the worse the decision will be. So trust your people, they close to where the work happens. They most probably know a thing or two about your customers, about the market, about the challenges within the organization, about the capabilities of the organization that you don't know about. Yeah. So that's that principle in Lean that we say go to Gemba. Go and spend more time with your people. Not because you want to check them up, but because you want to help them to do better and remove obstacles out of their path so that they can excel and exceed the expectations that you've actually set for them and for their team.
So basically, in other words, what we are saying is we should leave behind a little bit of not a little bit, but a good chunk of the micromanaging to move forward to the supportive side.
Yeah. So Agile depends on a high trust environment. And that's the most important thing that the leadership within an organization can do, is to build a high trust environment. All of these principles basically falls flat if you're trying to implement it in a command and control environment where the ability of people are constantly being questioned. Sorry.
Okay, I got over here like a good points from this. Good points. But also regarding to the mindset, I would like to ask you one more thing, because you were talking about the teams, and then I remembered that in the past, not too far away, I would say, that we used to call like departments, and then we used to call areas, and then teams. But now I feel that we are more moving forward towards the capabilities itself, that this is the most important part instead of the teams. Because it's so much common that the way that we're learning, the way that we're developing ourselves is changing. Nowadays, I can develop a new skill quite easily by accessing many different contents, even over YouTube.
Yeah.
So I think the way that people are gathering new skills is going in a really fast pace.
Yeah.
When compared to the past time.
Yeah.
So by using Agile, do you feel that organizations are gonna get the most from their employees? Because imagine the following: you are hiring someone, or you have a workforce that currently you have these skills or competencies over there, but as the world is moving and they are evolving really fast, so then this means that the same employees actually in 6 months time they will have way more capabilities than 6 before. So how can Agile embrace this to make the best for the organization actually?
Well, I think it's a natural result of working this way. The Agile approach, especially Scrum, is an empirical way of looking at work. And that means that if we don't understand something, we figure it out by doing it. By saying, is it this? And then we try it, and if it doesn't work, then we say, okay, so now we know it isn't this. So what is the next thing? And the best way, it's fairly easy to build skills with theory, but you can't build capabilities with theory. And that's one of the things that I love about the intermediate and advanced programs in the EXIN stable, is that there's a practical component. You can't call yourself a Scrum Master if you haven't mastered anything, if you have only mastered theory. So learning by doing is a really important part of growing as a person and building capability. And if you think about Scrum, in Scrum we talk about the three-legged stool, the fact that we need to be transparent, that we need to inspect, and then adapt based on that. So as you see things, see things going right or going wrong, you then question it, you pull it apart, you understand it, you say to yourself, okay, so that's not the way to do it. What are we going to do next? So that's that cycle of transparent, inspect, and adapt. And it's so helpful because it means we constantly learn. We learn by doing. We learn every day that we do something. And that's an awesome approach, I think, to learn. Yeah, I'm a primarily a visual, but then secondarily I'm a kinesthetic learner. So I love learning by doing, and you'll be amazed how many people are like that.
Yeah, I have to say that. Yeah, don't put me in a classroom with, only by listening, that I will freak out like easily after 5 minutes. I need to practice. But let's move to our next question. What is the real impact of becoming agile to the organizations and also for the professionals, Johann? What can you say about that from your experience? Johann?
Hello.
Oh, wait, sorry, I think I missed you like for a few seconds. Sorry, so I was moving on to the next question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, great. So my next question to you is, what is the real impact of becoming agile for the organizations as for the professionals from your experience?
Yeah. So for me, there's a benefit for all the stakeholders in the agile journey. For customers, it's better for value, faster, and more aligned to their current needs. For people within the organization, it's the ability to grow and to learn. Yeah, we've just talked in the previous answer about how this whole approach helps you to become more by learning. Yeah, and for the organization, it means happier customers, and because these happier customers, better performing organizations. So the benefit of using an agile approach is phenomenal across the board.
And then, for a consequence, then the organizations, they are more capable to create better products and be more competitive, increase ROI, and many other things. Am I correct?
Yeah, sure. And I mean, that's, as I said, the benefit of the organization is that eventually they're going to make more money. But that's not the only benefit.
Yeah.
They'll have happier customers and happier and more engaged staff members. Yeah. Now, an organizer, or in the times that we live in now, where we talk about the great quit, where so many people, and it's normally the people that we don't want to lose that we lose first. That's a huge benefit if you create an environment where people want to work, and they don't care if they get $1,000 more somewhere else, because they're happy and they're fulfilled. And for me, that's most probably the biggest benefit of all, is that we create better environments for everyone.
Good. So I'm gonna move forward to my last question, and then I'm gonna check if the audience have questions for us. Okay. So again, if you are watching us, please drop your question over there in the GoToWebinar tab called questions. that I'm gonna check and then try to address to Johann as much as I can. So my last official question to you is there any easy way of pointing organization in the direction of Agile? I feel we explored this subject, but if you can put like your last thought in a nutshell, be my guest, Johann.
Yeah, I think one of the things that people who believe in this way of doing work better, we shouldn't be shy to have conversations with especially the leadership of organizations and talk to them about how it's a better way of doing things. I think there's a lot of organizations out there that has sent people on courses without giving them any commitment. And unfortunately, what then happens is that those organizations say, it doesn't work. Agile doesn't work. So, having the difficult conversation and saying, it's not as simple as just applying a method. This actually means that you have to change your mindset. You have to change the way that you work. But incidentally, if you're willing to do that, the benefits are substantial to the organization. It's a slow process. Well, it's something that I sort of think is, and I've got no evidence to back it up, but I don't think organizations has got the choice anymore. So organizations who are agile and busy transforming themselves will outperform those who don't. And as a result, those who don't will not survive. It's as simple as that. Now, I don't want to use scare tactics to try and change people. That's really not a good way to change the hearts and the minds of people. But the sad reality is that's most probably where it will end up.
Okay, so basically, if organizations do not switch their mindset to Agile, they are out of the market in a short time. And also the organizations, they are pretending to use Agile, then I would use an expression that we used to use back then during the gold IT service management era, that we used to say, a fool with a tool is still being a fool, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what's interesting? I mean, those of you who are old enough to remember business process reengineering, which were really brilliant principles, would remember that 3, 4, 5 years down the line, lots of people were saying, but business process reengineering doesn't work. Now, Michael Hammer's response was the following. He says, just because you call it business process reengineering doesn't mean that it is business process engineering. Just because you say to people that you are doing Agile already indicates to me that you don't understand that you must be Agile. If you are Agile, you will definitely see the results.
That's great, Johann. Thank you very much for your time replying to these questions and to be over here talking to me. Now, I would like to move forward with the audience questions, but before we go, I would like to say already thank you to you, Johann, to the audience, and to everybody that is over here watching us. Thanks for that. And then for those that are going to watch the recorded version, and also just to briefly explain to you and to show you, this is the EXIN Agile Scrum certification. The EXIN Agile Scrum program is composed by 6 different models. We have the foundation model that it's designed for those that would like to understand the basics and the foundation parts from the Agile and the Scrum. And then for those that would like to take over the role of Scrum Product Owner and Scrum Master, then we have the specific models. Therefore, I would like to give you the heads up that these models, they are not a foundation model. They are really advanced models with loads of learn by doing, as Johann said, with practical assignments and many other things. So then you really need to be prepared before going to the examination. And then for those that are from the business side, then we have the Agile Business Professional that is designed for those that are from the outside IT world, marketeers, finance, business people, C-level, line managers. All of this audience is the target group for the Agile business professional, how to make Agile more efficient at the business side. And then for those that I would like to start coaching different teams at organizations to help them to become more Agile, then we have the Agile coach. That is a really, I would say, expert level that you need to have experience already, prove your experience, go for assignments, go for interviews, and then if you're passing all of them, then you get the Agile coach certificate from EXIN. So, and also we also have the career path certifications, and Agile Scrum is part of many of them. So I'd like to encourage you to access exin.com/career path certifications to check which career paths of EXIN Agile Scrum is part of, and then maybe you can boost your career quite easily with the certifications that you already have. So don't forget to miss this out. So I'm gonna put my slides off at this point of time. Then Johan, I'm gonna check over here the questions. Over here. What are the few factors which are absolutely deal breakers, impediments to adopt Agile in an organization?
Okay. So number one is, if you do not buy into this idea that cross-functional teams will take ownership of delivery of benefits to the organization, it's not going to work. If you're not willing to allow people to be true owners of the delivery, and you want to constantly prescribe to people what they need to do, it's not going to work. If you've got the wrong level of product ownership, it's not going to work. At the end of the day, what eventually is going to happen in the organization, and this always happens when an organization as a whole embraces Agile, is that the organization tends to become flatter, and the role of management changes. It changes from telling people what to do and being policemen to helping people to get things done, empowering them, and help to develop people. So if you want to say that you're Agile, but you're still fixed on a command and control structure, it's not going to happen.
Okay, great. I had another interesting question over here that I would like you to highlight for the last time. What would you recommend when you are trying to promote the Agile transformation organization, but there are still resistance when adopting Agile? And then this is the last question, and then we're going to have to say goodbye.
Okay. Thank you, Adama. So let me quickly just, and I think we did talk about it, but let me say, so try and find a part of the organization where the span of control that you and your team has got is sufficient so that you can keep outside interference to a minimum. Then find something that needs to be done that's valuable to as large a portion of the organization, and use that as the basis of showing that the Agile approach works better. So choose a pilot, run the pilot, show the value, show people that it's not a scary thing, and that actually you're not losing control. In fact, you never had it. So many times that we believe that, just because we can say no, it means that all our yeses will happen. It doesn't. So the best way to prove it is to sell it, is to show it that it works.
Okay. Well, Johann, I would like to say on behalf of EXIN and all the attendees, thank you very much for your time. And then also I would say again and again and again, thank you for being our Chief Examiner for Agile and Digital Transformation. It's an honor for us to work with you and to partner with you. For our audience, I hope you have enjoyed our time together. And then, well, of course, soon I would like to talk more with Johann, but with different subjects, different questions, because we have like loads of like a content to have like a deep dives over there. Johann, thank you very much, my dear.
Okay, thanks, Adama. It was awesome, and I hope that the audience enjoyed the afternoon. And remember, part of the role as Chief Examiner is to help you. So if there's any way that you've got additional questions or that you're unsure about things, reach out. The best way to reach me is to connect with me on LinkedIn.
Okay, Johann, thank you very much. Audience, thank you very much to you. See you in the next webinar. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Adama. Bye-bye.